I haven't seen anybody else. And Dennis, I think, will be here.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. If we could have roll call. I don't know if Matt's doing that or Sherry.
I can do that.
Okay, great.
David Allen,
Here.
Dennis Smith,
Here.
Matt Tuccini.
You waved. You
Okay.
waved.
Okay. Rob Baronic,
Here.
Cody Mayer,
Here.
Callie New,
Here.
and Mary Schlitt.
I'm here.
Okay, we have a quorum.
Great. So I'm looking for a motion to approve today's agenda.
So moved.
This is Dennis.
Second, Cody.
All in favor, say yes.
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 Opposed, say no. That motion carries. Next, I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda, which is just the approval of the minutes from July 16th.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on that? Any updates or problems? Okay. All in favor, say yes.
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 Opposed, say no. No. Good. That passes. And next we have the treasurer's report. Mary?
Morning, everybody. I'm just going to keep this brief. It seems like we've got some bigger items to get to today that might take some time. So if you just kind of review the summary that I had provided for the agenda, the biggest thing for the month of July is that we did have the 25% recognition of the tax revenues. In total, that was 1.14 million. And I kind of gave you an allocation of how that was split between all of the projects versus the state capture and the local capture. So offsetting that for the month of July, we just had some wages and fringes, and then some of the city services and max services. Expenditures were about $7,800. And in total for the year, we're sitting at revenues exceeding expenditures by just under 1.6 million. I've kind of given an allocation of that. We still have about $2 million that are restricted for bond related activities. We have that $1.3 million that we approved for the DLP eligible expenditures when they've come on board. And that leaves us with just under 1.6 million available for remaining expenditures for this fiscal year, as well as for the carry forward into next year's TIP allocation to the projects. And then there's that final breakout in the bottom showing how that 1.6 million is allocated among all of the projects. So, but yeah, that's the biggest thing for the year is that we've got that final capture of the revenues are in there, and we'll recognize the balance of those captures, that 75% going to the next fiscal year. So.
Any questions for Mary? Okay, I don't see any. So looking for a motion to accept the treasurer's report.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Yes. All opposed, say no. All right, that motion carries.
Thank you.
Next, we have the first of two public comments. And if you're already in the waiting room, we're letting everybody in as they show up today. So you don't have to make a public comment now if you're already on the agenda, but if anybody would like to make a public comment, now is the first of our two opportunities. You have 5 minutes if you wish to take that. Do we have anybody who wants to make a public comment? Okay, I don't see any. Good. Announcements from the chair. I just wanted to mention a couple of things. First, from time to time, things come up where either all of us or at least one of us is invited. So Sherry told me yesterday that there's an opportunity to go to the groundbreaking for Beacon House tomorrow, but because of COVID, they're trying to restrict it to just a couple of people, and I've agreed to go to that with Sherry. I just wanted to mention that in general, I will tend to be willing to go to those things. I don't mind doing that. I think it's good for the chair to show up for those things. But anytime that anybody feels a desire to go or would rather go than me, just let me know or let us know, and we can talk about that. I don't want to just assume that I'm always the one that goes. So, you know, I'm not necessarily asking about tomorrow, but just in general as these things come up. The second thing I wanted to mention is I've been thinking for a while now, and I've mentioned this at previous meetings, that I anticipate that in the not too distant future, we'll probably have some controversies, and we've had a little bit of controversies at times. Things like the Cliff Stow site where there's contamination and what kind of development should be there. The ongoing issue of things like how much development should there be near the lake shore, and how much are we sort of catalyzing that to happen. Some people like that idea, some don't. Some of the issues are like, it's come up at times about the library and what happens with the capture and how does that affect the library. These kinds of issues I think will come up quite a bit in the coming months. And I spent a lot of time in government, and most of my career was spent either in government or working for government. And I just wanted to mention, I know I'm speaking to the choir here, this is a very professional group, but I really enjoy working with this group. But I think there's a trick when controversy arises, and that is to pay particular attention to the details of the facts and of the mandates that we operate under, and to resist being dragged into personality conflicts. And that can be difficult, especially if we have either developers or people in the public, or even, God forbid, people in the city who have very animated personalities. I think that if we guard against sort of the personality-driven debate and stick to the fact-driven debate, we can be bold about our opinions that are based on facts and mandates, but we should be restrained and being dragged into the controversies on a personal level. Again, not much is happening now. I'm not really particularly worried about this group, but I thought I would just mention this as I think something we should be paying attention to in the coming months. That's all I have. Executive Director is next, Sherry.
Okay, we've had a rather busy month, and I think it's going to result in our meeting here today. A lot of ongoing activity. We have received or will be receiving a Brownfield app for the depot project. That kind of sat dormant for about 6 months or so. And we've had contact with them. So I anticipate we'll be having further discussion on that later on in the first part of next month. We have a budget hearing on Monday evening, presenting our budget. Mary has put it together very thoughtfully, and I will be participating. I believe David will be there as well. The DDA has a stakeholder presentation that they're doing tomorrow, which I'm going to miss because of the Beacon House activity at the same time, but I will be following up with them. I did participate on behalf of the Brownfield Authority when the DDA met to start looking at how they want the future to roll out for the city of Marquette. So I'll be happy to share that information when I receive it. And then again, the Beacon House event tomorrow. And hopefully when they're ready to do the ribbon cutting, we're going to have everybody there. That would be really awesome. So just been a busy month, but we are, continuing to work on projects and seeing some new things around the corner. So any questions?
Okay, thanks, Sherry. Next, we have project updates. And I don't know if we have anybody here from the project, so maybe just Sherry and Mac, if you want to let us know anything new on the Founders Landing. Do we have anything new there?
I did anticipate that Barry is going to be there and would be reporting a little bit later.
I believe
Okay.
Barry's in the meeting right now.
Barry's here.
Oh, Barry's there, okay.
Good morning.
And
Hi, Barry.
so I'll defer to-
Any updates?
Yeah. In fact, I think, Sean, you have those images. Yeah, I just wanted to give you an update of what's left down at Founder's Landing on the parcel 3B site. And, we're getting ready to get going on 2 Marquette Place. So I got just a few images to just show you quickly and just kind of lay out the timeline.
Mac, were you going to share those, or do you want me to pull them up?
I can if you'd like.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead? You just have to click share screen on the bottom.
Yep. Hopefully it'll come up here momentarily. Is it showing up for folks?
It is.
Yes.
Take it away, Barry.
All right, there you go. So we have 3 more buildings to build down on parcel 3B, and 1 Marquette Place, the apartment building is in place. That's going along very well. It's basically fully occupied. It has been almost from the once we finally got the building completely ready and turned over, it's been full. People love it. It's all working well. You may have noticed a bunch of cars around it recently. We are actually having a major cleaning of the parking structure. We brought in a firm from Minneapolis that does the hospital structures too, and just to give it a good cleaning and getting ready for another winter. So what you see here in this image are the 3 buildings that are left. There is a building that will be built at the end of 1 Marquette Place. We call that 1 Marquette Plus. And that will be residential condominiums. There'll be for sale units, just awesome location, just on the harbor, literally. To the left of that, you'll see next to the Hampton Inn, there's a 3-story building. That is 3 Marquette Place. And that will be, we're still waiting. We're still open to it being an office building or more residential. So that's kind of waiting to see. That's one thing we've learned through the now 12 years of Founder's Landing Brownfield plan is stay flexible. So the building you see towards the street is 2 Marquette, and that's the one we're going to talk about. That's the one we're going to build next and starting within the month here. So, so next image, here's a site plan.
Jump a little bit. For some
Back
reason.
up. You're fast.
Well, a little too fast, I guess.
So here's a site plan, 1 Marquette, sort of the beige one, and you can see the other 3. And then in between 2 Marquette and 3 Marquette, there's a stretch of parking. And if you look at the site today, between our current parking and the Hampton, there's a stretch of dirt. And that's exactly 60 foot wide, and that's what you need for a parking bay. So our first order of business here to start get going again is to build that parking. And that's the last phase of the parking that is to be reimbursed through the Brownfield plan. So it's just a level on the dirt you see today, and then there's a deck on top that is open air parking. And 2 Marquette sort of sits over the corner of it. 3 Marquette will butt up to it. So now we can go to the next.
Sorry, for some reason it wants to slide a little quick there.
All right, so this is a level down from the street. And so that's the upper level of the existing parking, which is the lighter speckled area. And then the gray area to the bottom of the image is the section of new parking that will be built. So there's 40 spaces that are added that'll be indoor, and then the 40 spaces that'll be up above as open air. You can go to the next. And then here's a little image. You can see 2 Marquette. It's to the street with all the cars out front, of course, the Hampton in the background. And in this image, you can see the section of the ramp that slopes down right now. That's in the middle. And then that you can see that section of parking that we're going to be constructing behind 2 Marquette. So the plan is we're actually going to start the excavation within 2 weeks. We have the same geopier foundation that we'll need because this was all, of course, all fill over the harbor after the fire in 1866. And so we still need a special foundation. So that'll be going in early in September. And then we'll start building that parking. So this, go ahead in the next one. The vocabulary of the design down here is sort of Marquette, a little bit of industrial. It's just sort of what we've been playing with. So to Marquette just sort of carries that little theme along. It does create a little bit of a streetscape. The first floor is all commercial. One of the things that is required as part of the form-based code is that we create street parking. Now, I guess this is still a decision that the city needs to decide on, that we want this, but it is part of the requirements, and it does add to the commercial aspect of it. So it makes it feel a little bit more like a downtown street. So this building is, the first floor is about 5,000 square feet of commercial, broken into what we're planning on 3 leaseholds, but we don't have those locked up yet. So it's very flexible. And then the second and third floor will be apartments. And one thing we found is the market study said build all 2-bedroom apartments in one Marquette, and we have a waiting list for 25 1-bedroom and studios. So we are building all 1-bedrooms and studios. There'll be a total of 22 units. And they all have balconies, they all have views. It's just a great location, in Marquette. So next image. Again, just kind of the design. The area from the Hampton parking will stay open. So that openness to the lake is still enhanced. And next. So sort of the back of the building, you can see how the parking is slightly underneath, but there is that whole open air deck above. So next image. This is looking on the Hampton side. And let's go next.
Whoa, hold on.
Yeah, just real quickly here. There's the floor plan. You see at the bottom of the page, you can see that street parking. So the bike path will, squeeze in. There'll be parking along it, and then we're taking a sidewalk in front of the building. There's actually up onto the property that will be separating the pedestrian traffic from the bike path traffic. So it's a busy area. You all know that the bike path becomes a walking path, basically from noon till about 8 at night. So, but we are planning on separating that out. This is the commercial space. You can go up above. Next one there. Oh, skip one. It's okay. The floor plans of the units was the other image. Again, there's 22 total units tucked in, lots of little corner balconies, lots of views, and just more, again, the same high quality that we did in one Marquette Place. We really are trying to make premium places to live, and of course, right down on the harbor. So that's what we have going on. And like I said, we're going to be starting on this. Basically, the sequence will run geopiers in September, early September, then a bunch of concrete work. Precast will come in the end of October, just before deer season. Then we'll have all the concrete in the ground. And then December 1, we'll actually start framing to Marquette Place up above it. So, and then just work through the year. It'll take a year to get it all done. And then we'll, next year, we'll start on 3 Marquette and 1 Marquette Plus. So that's where we're at.
Any questions or comments for Barry?
Any questions?
Anybody? Great. Well, I'll just say I have this mental image of that area from the most industrial times that I've seen both Mac and you, Barry, show, and it's gratifying to see the difference, to think of the difference between that old picture and what's bearing fruit now. So thank you very much for the update.
All right.
Next, we have a project update for DLP Marquette General Replacement Hospital, including Beacon House. And I don't,
Yeah,
Sherry, do we
David?
have somebody on the line, or do you or Mac want to say something?
David, just a quick note. There are 3 projects that are part of Founder's Landing there.
Oh, yeah.
I think Mitch is on for Fairfield Inn, just to provide an update for that.
Great.
And
Sorry
Brad,
about that.
Barry can talk about the townhomes project as well. So.
Yep.
So Mitch,
let's-
if you want
So
to
let's go
kind
back
of
to
give an
Fairfield.
outline
I'm
of the.
sorry for skipping over that.
Oh, no worries. No worries. Mitch, if you'd like to kind of give an outline of the Fairfield project, and we can talk a little bit more about some of the other conversations we've had as well. So.
Sure, thank you very much, Mac and Mr. Chairman. We're very happy the investment group that is putting this, the first ever Marriott franchise property into the UP, will be in Marquette. You've been presented before the nature of the project in terms of size and scope. But today I just wanted to give you a brief update and maybe answer some questions. We appreciate the tremendous professionalism that we've been shown by your staff, Mr. Chairman, and by your consultant, Sherry and Mac and the rest. They've been just terrific to work with. We've been around this state, probably done a dozen hotel projects in the last 25 years. So we're very excited. It is a work in progress. We understand it's the first brownfield project that I personally have been involved in. I'm the project manager for the owners. And this is it's really a work in progress. And I think at the end of the day, it's going to be a real masterpiece when you think about how you've come from where it was to where you're going to be in that waterfront in Marquette. So we're excited about it. Wanted to just let you know our general schedule has been amended given the COVID situation to where we originally would hope to be completed and open end of 20. But now we've adjusted that to Q1 of 2021 simply because of the slowdowns and the problems that we've had, almost shut down. But at any rate, we look forward to being open in the latter part of Q1 of 2021. As regards to the Brownfield Authority specifics, I think it's fair to say that our crew and our team includes Barry, of course, who's you know very well, Barry Polson, our architect, and the R.W. Mercer Company, and O'Boyle Construction. And those are the 2 that are putting together from a construction perspective. We also will have Fritz Heller's company, North Mish Hospitality Management LLC out of Traverse City, will be managing the property and have already begun some of the work that you need to work through as regards to future sales and operations. So we're excited about that. We have a few things that will come forward that will be adjustments to our project plan on the Brownfield side, which will be some additional funds. We can get into those items. They're not major league, but everything costs a few more dollars. So we expect to be back with a more specific plan through Barry's good work, the work we have of our consulting firm, Envirologic Technologies, and those will require some additional requests coming forward. I want you to be aware of that. So we just wanted the opportunity to come in. Sherry and I have spoken quite a bit about this project, and we just wanted to make sure we give you guys a chance to ask any particular questions you have of our team as we move forward. Again, lastly, I would say we appreciate your professionalism. The plan you have is exciting, and we're happy just to be a small part of it.
Questions?
I'll
Barry,
just
Barry, do you have anything to
couple
add or
comments.
Matt? Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, Mac.
Just to add in a couple of points. As you may recall, there was an allocation that was made for parcel 2. It didn't really have any eligible activities included within the original Brownfield plan back in 2009. But we made an administrative amendment to provide for allocation of dollars for both the hotel and the townhouses there. And in some conversations, that the primary environmental eligible activity was with a vapor mitigation system that was there due to the presence of the old Superior site and a dry cleaner that was in that location. So they had to put in a vapor mitigation system. There were some additional costs, and Envirologic, Eric Peterson there has identified additional costs right now, I think what I'm suggesting is that they provide all of those costs in when their documentation there that may go over. They have 159,850 allocated for environmental. Excuse me, 199,698. About 200,000 allocated for that, for those, all those environmental activities. If the costs come in over, I'm suggesting they provide that. Right now, we're only able to approve up to that 199,698. And then at the end of the project, after all the eligible activities are completed, 1, 2, and 3 Marquette Place are completed, all of the projects are built out, we can come back and take a look at what the actual eligible activity costs are and see if there's some additional dollars to allocate for those costs. So I think, I wanted to share that approach with everybody, see if that made sense for you. So we'll have all the documentation, but your action to approve the invoices will be limited to the budget allocation we have right now, and then take a look in a couple of years when everything is all built out and everybody's all closed out to see where we stand in terms of the budget.
Thanks, Mac. Comments, questions from anybody?
Yeah, I have one other thing I'm a little embarrassed to say is that we forgot the development and reimbursement agreement here between us and both the hotel and the townhouses. Townhouses are a little bit behind the development, but we'll be bringing a development and reimbursement agreement back to you in September for your approval for the project. Standard kind of agreement there, but that will guide the submittal and approval of the eligible activities and the rest of the projects.
Good. Anything else, Mac?
I'm finally done.
Anybody else?
Oh, yeah, this Barry, I'll update you on the townhouse project, parcel 2A. That project has been inching along, but it is moving forward. We just last week had actually the phase 2 environmental, some boring sampling done. And what we're trying to determine is if the same vapor issue exists there as it does on the Fairfield. We expect it doesn't, because of the way that the gas station was positioned and the direction of that groundwater. And so, and also the fact that about half of that site has got a lot of bedrock very close to the surface. So, but we're going to know for sure in a couple of weeks, and then we'll be back to talk about what we actually have to do there. We've the project itself is ready to go, and basically some of these last steps need to be taken care of. I know they still have to purchase the property from the city, which is coming up in September, I believe. And but there have been quite a few reservations made already on taking units. We have 26 townhouses, and I think they have like 13 of them kind of spoken for already. So there is a lot of interest in more, being able to buy a nice tidy little townhouse down on the harbor. So that'll all add to the big TIF pot.
Anybody else? Questions, comments?
I said I wasn't going to talk anymore, but you know me.
We know that that's never true. So.
Just for clarification, these eligible activities being conducted, with the hotel and the townhouses, the capture is limited to just parcel 2. And once those, as Barry mentioned, once those eligible activities are fully reimbursed, then those taxes go back to paying off all of the other eligible activities, and then eventually back to the taxing jurisdictions. Again, parcel 2 wasn't considered either in eligible activities or in TIF revenues in the original plan there. So after these eligible activities are paid off, it's a bonus in essence to help pay off all of the other eligible activity costs on the project more quickly.
I just wanted to mention to Mitch and Barry how much I appreciate these updates. I think it's really helpful for, as we get new members on the board, to sort of get some visual help and some updates that help us understand the context of these projects. And I also like to see the arc of how the project is going. So I really appreciate you taking the time to give us the update. All right. So now we'll go to the DLP Marquette General Replacement Hospital updates. And I don't know if we have anybody online or if we're just going to hear from Mac and Sherry on that. if there are any updates.
I don't think there's anyone online.
Okay.
And basically, we're still waiting for invoices, as far as I know. Is that correct, Matt?
Yes.
Okay.
We wanted to update you. You know, we discussed this last month of the potential for some eligible activities for Beacon House. And it was dependent on two factors. One, if DLP had expended all of their allocated budget, which was $4 million for environmental activities and $6 million for non-environmental activities. And if they had been below that value, then they could be able to allocate some of those budget dollars to Beacon House. So that's kind of on the Brownfield plan side. The other request has been put in for DLP to help actually fund or finance those eligible activities, estimated at about $450,000, about $150,000 environmental and $300,000 non-environmental. What we've heard from DLP is that they have used their full $10 million allocation. And so if you may recall, we had, three options there. One would be if there was no allocation, if there was an allocation available and DLP was willing to fund it, we didn't have to really do anything. That would just be added to their list. If they weren't able to fund it, but there still was an allocation, we'd be able to amend the development and reimbursement agreement and figure out how to pay Beacon House. Now we found kind of on the third option, there isn't any allocation available and they're still discussing whether to fund it or not, but that almost doesn't matter. So I think we wanted to discuss today if it makes sense to go back and make another administrative amendment to the Brownfield plan to reallocate some dollars either from the interest calculation or from the local Brownfield fund to allocate some dollars for Beacon House in the amount of about $450,000. So I think that's kind of the, based on our conversation last time and where we're at right now with the information we know, it appears that there'll need to be an administrative amendment to the Brownfield plan to increase the environmental and non-environmental budget to provide for that. As you may recall, last time we took some dollars out of the local Brownfield fund and reallocated those. We can also take dollars out of interest, kind of depending on where we're at in terms of the cost. So I think that's the direction that we're suggesting and recommending, is to proceed with an administrative amendment to provide for an increase in eligible activities for the Beacon House in the amount of $450,000.
And so, Mac, are you telling us that this is coming down the pike, or is this something you're hoping for some sort of action today?
No, I'm looking for consensus if that's an acceptable approach.
Sure.
And we would back the administrative amendment at next month's meeting.
Yeah, well, for my part, I think that sounds entirely reasonable. I think this is from just me personally, this is an important element that we'd like to see happen. And so I think from my perspective, it makes sense to go in that direction. I don't know how the other directors feel about it.
Well, I guess my only question really is, this is Dennis, did we chat with the city about this? How do they feel about that, Max? Does it have any impact on what we have to do with them or no?
We don't really care what they think. But no, that's a great point, Dennis. And it really doesn't have a increased impact because we're just adjusting that budget, making that line item adjustment. So it doesn't have a net effect for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would like to know how that's paid back. Who's responsible for that? Would that be coming out of the taxes of the hospital then, or will the Beacon House actually make some type of reimbursement?
Yeah, that's the conversation that we have to have with DLP, is how the taxes paid for by DLP would go back to Beacon House. The easiest way is if DLP comes up and says, yeah, we'll fund up front the $450,000, and then we just add it to their bill basically, and they're paid off over time. That's the easiest, simplest way. If Beacon House has to come up with the money, then we have to figure out that allocation between DLP and Beacon House and how long it will take to pay that off there. And Mary may correct me if I'm wrong, but I think, we already have $1 million ready to pay DLP. The taxable value is much higher than what we anticipated. I still owe, kind of an analysis now of what that all looks like. But there's a lot more revenues than what were anticipated originally, and the payout's a little bit quicker. So, but that's a great question, Mike. I think the easiest and most hopeful way is that DLP will fund those, and we just add it to their tab and pay them off, over time. That's the easiest, simplest way.
Okay, just
But
one more
great-
question. Would that come out of the reserve, so to speak, or would that be just added on to the time of payback? I mean, would the city not realize that tax recovery for a little longer time? I'm not quite clear.
Yeah, what we're suggesting is we had the same capture mode for the local Brownfield fund that we had in the others that begins in year 6 and has a small percentage. And then after all the eligible activities are paid off, that rolls into the fund for another 5 years.
Okay.
As you can imagine, that was a fairly sizable amount of money generated by the project. So we're just suggesting to take this 450 out of that large pot. It wouldn't go back into the Brownfield fund, but it wouldn't have an impact on the city.
Okay,
If that makes sense.
thank you. Yes, that answers my question.
Okay, thanks.
Other directors, how do you feel about this? Do you have any input for Mac about this? Anybody? Well, let me put it a different way then. Does anybody disagree with my giving Mac sort of the consensus that he was hoping for? Does that represent the will of the board? Is that reasonable, or do you want to say that, wait, we don't want him to go down this path yet?
David, are you looking like for a motion to support Mac's theory?
Well, maybe we should do it as a motion. Why don't we do that? That'll make it crystal clear. So looking for a motion about giving Mac the go ahead to pursue this approach for making the Beacon House project workable.
I'd make that motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a second. Any further discussion about this from anybody?
Hey, Dave, it's Rob. Just to be clear, is the motion that Mac is going to approach DLP to see if they'll fund it up front, or Mac's going to look for the alternative funding mechanism?
Yeah, it is to provide for an administrative amendment to make a line item change to increase the eligible activity costs. The DLP question, Beacon House is pursuing that.
Is that clear, Rob?
We're hit up until Mac froze, but yeah, I know where you're going.
Okay. Yeah, Mac, I don't know if you can hear me, but you're frozen. So we think we got the gist, and we think you've answered the question. Hopefully you'll unfreeze or come back in a moment. Any other discussion on this? Seeing none, all in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Or raise your hand. Okay. All opposed say no or raise your hand. I don't see any no's. Correct me if I'm wrong, there are no no's, right? Okay. So that motion carries. So Mac, if you can hear me, or when you come back, I'll tell you that it passed. Looks like we've lost Mac temporarily. Sherry, do we need to wait for Mac on the update for Radio Liberty Way, or?
No, I thought perhaps that Mark would be there, but yeah, there's really nothing new to report there, nor for item D, the patisserie.
And Mark, you're not on the line, right? You're not in the meeting? Just making sure for Viridia Liberty Way.
I am on my computer.
Oh, okay. Do you have any updates that you wanted to provide?
Not really. I listened to the last meeting, and apparently I didn't have it set up because I heard you discuss where we were, what our status was on a few of the projects. So I just wanted to make sure that I was available for this meeting.
Great. Thank you.
I mean, we don't have any real updates. I know you had mentioned last meeting about the hospital project, and we're no longer pursuing that project at this point. We are still working on the Dow site opportunity. That's still in progress, though.
Okay. Any questions for Mark from anybody? All right, well, we appreciate you coming on, Mark. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
And then final project update is 231 Patisserie. Sherry, do we have anything on that?
No, nothing new on that.
And do we have anybody online that wants to provide any update on that? I just want to make sure I don't overlook anybody. Okay, good. So that's it for project updates. We're now moved to unfinished business. First up is the Upper Peninsula State Bank Brownfield Plan, which is in the packets. We probably, yeah, there's Mac. Mac, you got.
Sorry.
That's all right. You
I
got
thought
your
Rob-
consensus.
I thought Rob's face froze, and then I looked around and everybody else's did, and then I dropped out. So
So we took a vote and it did pass. So
that's good. That's good. Thank you.
and we're now on to the Upper Peninsula State Bank Brownfield Plan. So we're ready to hear about that. Probably, I don't know if Sherry or Mac wants to go first on this.
The first thing I wanted to do is make sure that everyone was aware that there is a correction to the public hearing notice, which would actually be 2020 as opposed to 2018. That will be corrected in the final that went out before that was found. So that's the only thing I wanted to add, and I'll turn it over to Mac to walk through the process. And I believe we have representatives there as well to talk about it.
Yep, thanks. I'll just kind of kick it off quickly there as well. This was a project that was discussed at last month's meeting with the redevelopment of the former Burger King site by UP State Bank for their Marquette branch. In the kind of throughout the discussions, and a key factor that came up from the time that we met last month was the identification of a water main replacement along this area. The city planning and engineering staff kind of identified this opportunity where there was a water main that had lower capacity and also needed eventual replacement. Its current state is more prone to breaks. And so what was done was that major public investment of about $250,000 or so was included within the Brownfield plan. And so that was kind of a shift from what happened before. That certainly is a major public asset as part of the project. And we thank UP State Bank for their generous contribution to Brownfield TIF, although they had a question or two about it. But so we've kind of laid out a little bit of that split arrangement. We need one clarification as to whether that project could be done through a capital improvement bond as a non-taxable bond, because it's more broadly, it's not just for this eligible property, but it is for other properties across the area. It appears that it will be non-taxable and done in the CIP, and we'll do that the same with the bond payments spread out over that time period. I believe that Gary said those are about 10-year bonds, and so a pretty good value for the city, a good opportunity for the city. The UP State Bank does get better fire suppression. We kind of laugh that it'll provide a more quick way to ruin all their computers in case of a fire, but it does provide some additional capacity on that. There are two major eligible activities here. One, of course, is the removal of the existing building for the project. And this site was a former dry cleaners, and so it does have PCE and TCE, pretty pervasive contaminants that cause vapor intrusion. So there will be a need for a vapor mitigation system under the site as well. So we will be proceeding with seeking support from the state for state tax capture, and the schedule again is laid out. Based on your decision today, we'd move forward with a public hearing on September 14th, and the plan would be in place at that time. And I'm happy to answer any questions presented to you today as a consideration of a resolution for approval for the plan. And I'll let the representatives from UP State Bank chime in if you wish. Eric.
Yeah, thanks, Mac. And I'm Eric Lundeen with Upper Peninsula State Bank, and Andy Hero is on the line as well, who's our Marquette County president. And we've been very happy with the partnership with Sherry and with Mac and developing this project. And I know we talked about it more thoroughly at the last meeting. And I think in this particular case, the amendments that were made to include the water main will definitely benefit Marquette and ourselves, as Mac mentioned. But we're excited to be entering the market and hopefully start demolition in the next few weeks. Anything you want to add, Andy?
No, not really. Just that we're very excited about the project, like you said, and just here to answer any questions that might come up.
Okay, great. So why don't we do it this way, since this is a pretty formal thing. If one of the directors, if you look at the bottom of the very first page, is a recommendation, and you can either use that or modify it as you see fit to make a motion. And why don't we go ahead and have someone read that in as the formal motion, and then we'll have a second, and then we'll have further discussion. I have a couple little things I want to mention. So if we can proceed that way, I think I'd feel most comfortable. So.
Hey, David, is this the recommendation that Mac revised and sent out, or is that a different recommendation?
They were all the same. It's the same document. It was just a more clear version was all I sent out.
So I'm hoping for a motion.
Oh, I'll make that motion, David.
All right, so I'm just going to read it so everyone's clear. Review and revise, if necessary, the Brownfield plan and adopt a resolution approving the Brownfield plan for reimbursement of environmental and non-environmental eligible activities, cost for Brownfield plan preparation, approval and implementation, and MBRA administration and operation for the Upper Peninsula State Bank Marquette branch, with final form approved by the MBRA executive director. And now I'm looking for a second.
I'll second.
Great. And so now discussion. Anybody have any discussion on this motion? Questions, issues, comments? Well, just to fill this, you still have, I'll give you more time if it occurs to you. I have one niggling little thing, Mac, that I'm almost embarrassed to say, and you can ignore me. It's just how I am. So there's always this issue about these, the compounds TCE and PCE, and the PCE has got 3 synonyms, and people who know about dry cleaners and stuff probably understand that. But I think that someone in the general public sees tetrachloroethene and then the abbreviation PCE, they say, what? And I know you're trying to keep it separate from the trichloroethane and all that. So 2 things about that. One, either say also known as or something just so it doesn't cause confusion. Or, just my other comment, you actually continue to spell everything out and show the abbreviation again throughout the document. You could just drop the abbreviations altogether and just keep saying the word. No big deal. It's not going to affect my vote. I'll be voting in favor of this, but I just thought I'd mention that. I think that might help general readers.
I appreciate that. And I did lift the information from the environmental work that was done previously. So
yeah, right.
But I will make that that adjustment as well. So.
I just know that probably no one will read it, but if they do,
Yep.
So anyway, yeah.
Yep. No, I appreciate
Any
that.
other comments, questions before we take a vote? Okay, all in favor of the motion, say yes.
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 All opposed, say no. All right, I don't see any no's. All right, so that motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you, Eric and Andy.
Thank you.
So now we'll move to also under unfinished business, the Customs House Brownfield application. And again, Sherry, Mac, I don't know what order we want to go in.
Well, we've had a number of communications with them. I believe they are also in attendance today. They've also been in touch with the city, continuing to work on a piece of property. So I guess I would turn it back to Mac to introduce where we're at on that project.
Yep. Thanks, Sherry. Kind of in a continuing way, this project was discussed there. And at the May meeting, a motion was made to deny the project application on the basis of a lack of a public asset for that. And I think there was discussion actually right within that motion and with that activity is that if there was a change to that, that the project could be brought back for consideration. Some continuing discussions between Mike and the Gregorys about some opportunities and looking for a way to make the project happen. Identified a significant cost factor that was a challenge for the project, and that is to stabilize the existing building. We looked at that and made the interpretation that stabilizing that historic building was an eligible activity under site preparation. The cost is approximately $300,000 there. And with that, additional available reimbursable cost, it really provides the project an economic, a good economic way to proceed and really affects that economic viability. And so conversation, between all the parties was had going on. And it appears like there is consensus to be able to move forward with the acquisition of the easement and provide this change to the Brownfield plan. The actions would be tie-barred to each other, is that the Brownfield plan would only be effect if there's a successful purchase of the easement, and vice versa. There'd be a Brownfield plan if the only be a purchase if the Brownfield plan was passed. So there's a tie-bar arrangement between those two arrangements. The Gregorys may speak to this, but we communicated yesterday, and that they accept generally in concept, generally the appraisal price that they had provided for that. Mike can speak to that on the cities. It appears that there is consensus on the city side for that as well. So this provides the opportunity with this addition to the Brownfield plan from what you saw before for building stabilization as an eligible activity, and allows the project to move forward. Appears to meet the requirement for that public asset as well. And so with all of that, we're recommending that that be included within the budget and that we move forward on a Brownfield plan.
Quick question, Mac, just to make sure I understand what you said. On the tie bar, and I don't know, Mike, you may also be able to speak to this. Is it the case that if we were to approve this today and the easement deal did not go through, we would not have to take any further action and this would not be enforced as a Brownfield plan? Or would we have to take some further action to change what we did today if we did approve this today?
I can maybe make a first cut at that, but,
Sure.
but my suggestion would be the resolution would be that the Brownfield plan would only take effect upon closing of the property. And so if there was no closing, the Brownfield plan would not take effect in that arrangement. We probably have a little bit of, work to do, legal review and all of that kind of stuff, but that's how we would, I think, approach that. And my suspicion is that the purchase agreement would also include comparable language, that the purchase agreement, is only in effect if the closing is only in effect with the Brownfield plan in effect.
And again, to clarify, so that the language that you're talking about that would get a legal review, that's not in what we're doing today. No. That would be in the actual Brownfield plan, et cetera. And so that's where we would see this language.
That's right. This is today is accepting the application and moving forward on the Brownfield plan. Yeah, thanks for the clarification.
Thanks. Mike, anything further on any of that?
No, just that we agree, and we, myself and the Gregorys agree in principle. I think we've overcome the hurdles that we had earlier. So I, from the city's point of view, we support the application.
And Gregory,
Mike?
you're on the phone, right? All right. Do you have anything further you'd like to present before we go to the motion and discussion from the Gregorys? I'm pretty sure I saw them.
David or Nicole, do you have anything to add? Oh, maybe they're on mute.
If you're speaking, you're on mute. Let me see if they're on here. Yeah.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me
Yes.
now?
Yes.
I apologize. Nothing to add. Nicole and I are here. We want to thank Mac, Sherry, and Mike Angeli for all their hard work. And we do agree to the deal on the terms discussed, and we believe that we can bring this to conclusion. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so now I'm looking for a motion. And again, since this is a pretty formal part, I'd like to actually read in this. It's on the recommendation at the bottom if someone wants to either make that motion or, revise it as you see fit.
Can I ask for clarification real quick, David?
Sure.
We're talking about accepting the application itself right now, not the actual plan, correct?
Right.
That's correct.
Okay.
It does. I will say it includes the amended budget, for the additional structural support for $300,000 from what you had done before. So.
One other clarification before we move forward. Mike, is the city actually acquiring the property or simply acquiring an easement on the property?
We would actually acquire the property. And just to add a couple more details, if you don't mind, the overall plan, because this is also somewhat related to the Founders Landing Brownfield plan, is that we would improve that street, curbing, pavement, infrastructure. That's attached to the other Brownfield plan, but there's a little more detail here. But it's in principle, we'll own it, and we'll actually improve the access that we have to the piling project as well. That's part of the other Brownfield plan.
Okay, so anywhere where our notes say easement, that's incorrect. It's actually an acquisition.
Well, I want to clarify. It is currently an easement, but it's not necessarily considered, or there's a question as to whether it's a public access easement or whether it's a simple easement to property. And so we're taking an easement that the city currently has, its use is in question, and acquiring that parcel in fee simple, acquiring that easement location in fee simple. So currently it's an easement, will be converted to a fee simple acquisition. How about that?
That's good. And I'm assuming we'll still have to allow easements across it too. I mean, there will be easements once we own it. So
this is a historic easement for all of, historic easement with all of the fun about, when railroads abandon property or get rid of property, there's always these interesting pieces. So this is to clear up that access matter completely.
So I think what we'll do now is we'll have this motion. We'll have further discussion under the motion. So you'll have plenty of opportunity to ask any more questions. So I'm looking for a motion, and you can again look at the recommendation here if you want to just read it in or change it as you see fit. Somebody besides the chair has to do this.
Dave, I move to accept the revised budget and Brownfield project application for the custom house redevelopment and authorize the preparation of the Brownfield plan and development agreement upon the deposit of $12,500 and further conditioned, as we've discussed, on the city's successful acquisition of the property.
Thank you, Rob. Looking for a second?
Second.
Great. Now discussion. Any discussion about this motion?
May I ask who made the second on that, please?
Matt did.
Okay. Thank you.
Dave, I recall during our last meeting, there was another issue that I believe Mary had brought up, that there were some outstanding taxes on the parcel. Mary, do you know if that has been resolved?
According to the county, there is still approximately $480 in taxes still due. This was for fees and penalty and interest remaining. As far as current taxes, right now, nothing is has to do with the city, because of course my due dates don't come in until September 14th.
Other questions, issues, comments?
Yeah, can David or Mike and maybe Mac, if someone could explain a little bit more, the 300,000 for the stabilization, is that for the building itself and that's being considered as a public asset? Is the stabilization factor, or did I misunderstand that?
Yeah, no, the stabilization is a private eligible activity under site preparation. The public asset is the easement and the continuation of the Farragut Street extension, for lack of a better term.
Okay, for some reason I thought I heard that the stabilization was the public asset factor in this, and that seemed really off, but okay, thank you.
Yep. Thanks for the clarification.
Other questions, issues, comments? I'll just,
Mac,
go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, the line item that says other eligible activities acquisition, $50,000. That money would be made available to the city, right? Not to the project?
That's correct. The city would be acquiring that. Acquisition is an eligible activity and is a reimbursable expense for the city. So the city would be reimbursed for those costs for acquisition.
I had the same question. Thank you. Anything else? I'll have a couple things unless there's someone else who has. So I just wanted to say that I'm very glad to see that this is, the issues have been apparently resolved. This has been under discussion for quite a while. We had at the first discussion about whether there was sufficient new employment. That's something that Kelly had raised. We had issues about sufficient, public benefit, and, the issue of the taxes, and the issue of whether we could strike the deal between the city and the Gregory's. And I think it sounds like, from my perspective, that all of these issues have been resolved, at least within the context of our previous discussions. And so I personally favor this. I also think that the authority has always been very supportive of the idea of this project, that tying together this sort of downtown area and fixing this last blighted sort of spot is a very positive thing. So I'm encouraged that it looks like we're on the right road to getting this settled. But I will also say that it will be quite important to me to see that tie bar in any document. Without that, and I want some reassurance from the lawyers that it is enforceable. So when we get to that part of that stage. With that said, I think we're ready for a vote, unless there's anything else from anybody. Okay, so all in favor say yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no. I don't see any no's. So that motion carries. Thank you. And that concludes new business. So we're now to the second public comment period. If there's anybody in the Zoom meeting who would like to make a public comment.
We do have one more item, and that is Mac's invoices.
Oh, yes.
You skipped over that on purpose, David, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
Actually, we also have a invoice review for Founders Landing.
Oh, do we?
Yep.
Oh, yeah, all right. Sorry, new business. All right, right. So new business, Founders Landing invoice review. Matt?
Yep, I'll jump in on this. This is, as you may recall, we have a cascade of costs here and allocations, and it's become, as Mary can attest, a relatively complex project with 4 different projects going on there. But this Landing Development Group 2, who is developing the One Marquette Place, parcel 3B, have expenditures that they make and then are subject to reimbursement as well. We also, you may recall, the parking deck is included as an allocation there, but these are the reimbursable expenses that are there. And there were some additional costs for dewatering that they had as part of their project, equaling almost $65,000. So we reviewed these costs. They are in the realm within the budget, as an eligible activity. And would recommend these be added to the long-term obligation for reimbursement for Landing Development Group there. I wanted to make one correction there in the effective date. I didn't change that from the template. I changed the date, but not the year. The effective date is actually today, 8/20/20, instead of 17. Mary doesn't like to pay interest, and she doesn't want to pay any more than she has to. So just for clarification, and Barry, I'm not sure if you have anything to add to that as well.
No, that's basically it. I mean, that was just cleaning up the last of that stuff, and just maybe 30 years from now, we'll see that money.
Well, it'll be actually 2039 or bust. I think.
Oh yeah, well, good. That's a lot better.
Yep.
Anything else from you, Sherry, on this?
No.
Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to approve the allocation with the correction that Mac mentioned.
So moved.
Second.
For a second? Did I hear a second? Yeah, Cody. Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you. Any further discussion? See none. All in favor say yes. Yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no. All right, that motion carries. And now, Max invoice. Looking for a motion to approve the invoice for Mac.
So moved.
Second. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed say
Yes.
no. That motion carries.
Good hesitancy. Well done there.
Yes. Thank you. And now we're ready for public comment. Is there anybody in the Zoom meeting who would like to make a public comment? If you're saying yes, I can't hear you, so make sure you're not muted. All right, I don't think we have anybody. I didn't expect to have anybody, so we're about to move on. Good, so now we're ready for comments from the Brownfield directors. I'll just go around my screen here. Dennis, do you have anything?
Nope, thank you.
All right, Matt?
No, I do not.
All right. Cody?
I don't have anything.
And everyone else has disappeared. I don't know if Callie is still on. Callie, if you have
Here.
anything.
I do not have anything further. Thank you.
Okay. Did I miss anybody who is actually in the meeting?
Yeah, Rob is still there.
Oh, there's Rob. It says Rob is talking.
Hey, David.
Do you have anything, Rob?
I'm all set, David.
Okay, good. Thank you. All right. In that case, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.